Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, where today I have returning guest, the legend, the myth, the legend, Tim Hunt. So I had you on before and you were just about to start your prep, and the prep is obviously complete now. So it feels like it was literally yesterday we did the pod.
I know, and my face is so much skinnier now. I had a fat face before, now it's skinny. But yeah, it does seem day. And it's like, how long ago? I don't know, 6 months? Something
Yeah,
like
'cause it was by Christmas, wasn't it?
yeah, before Christmas. It was a sunny day. I remember that. Unlike today, are we in May? We're in May now, and it's like raining. What's that about? But at least you can stay inside and be at the gym, you know.
Yeah, doing what we love. So we're going to talk about preps today and the different types of approaches, because of course, not only length, but there's assisted and natural preps, which are both, very similar principles, but mainly the length is going to change. And you've done a natural prep as well, haven't you?
No, I haven't actually done a natural prep before. No. I put people into competitions that have been natural. But myself, I have not done a natural one. So it's in terms of natural and assisted, it's essentially, yeah, like you say, it's length of time. So if you're assisted, you can do it quickly.
Yeah.
If you're natural, you either have to go really hard and kill yourself for, I don't know, 10 to 12 weeks and go absolutely in for that 10 to 12 weeks. Or you're just going to take about 20 weeks to do it. So, yeah. I mean, people take 6 months to do it. You know what I mean? Like when they're natural. So, yeah, it does change depending on whether you're natural or assisted. There's lots of things, lots of factors that can come into account. So, like for example, if you're assisted, you can. I mean, personally, I've done complete transformation in 12 weeks, and 12 weeks is nothing. Like in the bodybuilding world, 12 weeks, you say, right, your prep's going to be 12 weeks. I'm like, sound okay. I know guys prepped in 6 weeks. So you do it that quickly if you are assisted. But it's whether you want to go down that rabbit hole, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I know people that have done turbo preps for 4 weeks, and something I've mentioned on the pod before actually is, obviously the joy of Instagram is that you get a snippet of people's preps and what they're doing, and there is always that risk and reward, similar to what you said there, going in and going real hard. If you're doing like a 4 to 6 week one, then you've got to look at what the PEDs are around that and that risk versus reward. And also, it also depends on where you're starting your prep. If you're still pretty lean, and like you said when you were on before, if you're at a pretty good body composition and you're off season, you haven't got that much fat accrual, etc., then that's going to be potentially knocking time off your prep. And I think that sometimes you get hooked into the Instagram and it's like, oh, I can do that in 4 weeks. And you've got to think of the whole makeup there, the genetics as well, if people have prepped before, where they're starting their prep, rather than just, oh, I can do that. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah. It's like, for myself, I mean, I wouldn't say fat, but for me, I was fat. Like, went into my previous prep, I had a lot of fat to lose. I lost about 15 kilograms in the end. So that's about 35 pounds all in all. That was only in 12 weeks. That only took me 12 weeks. So it's like, yeah, you can, it really does, like you say, depend on your body composition when you're going into that prep. So if you've got like 20 to 25% body fat, you're going to need, I don't know, at least 12 weeks, at least, and a lot of people around that body fat will take 20 weeks to prep, 4 or 5 months, So it depends on how hard you're willing to push it. So, yeah, how much clen can I take in one day and survive?
Yeah. This is the thing though, it is, when you go down the assisted route and when things like stims, clen, your himbo, however that looks for you, it is a very different ball game. I remember my first prep with those in, and it was like, fucking hell. I remember I was on the way to the gym the first time I'd done Clen, and I was drinking a Monster, and I thought, Monsters don't normally make me feel like this. And I was literally like, I think there's something wrong with me. And you then have to think about, so like you said there, how hard are you going to push? If you're using things like Clen, if you're working in a certain environment where people maybe don't get what you're doing and they don't know about that, like the concentration, how you're affected when you're sitting in a team meeting. I've had it where I'm literally sitting there thinking, fucking hell, you know, like being able to concentrate, being able to have input. So people need to think about this for if this fits into their lifestyle, if they are going down the assisted route as well, you know.
That's it, 100%. If you're a, you know, high-end professional working in a high-end job and you need to concentrate every single minute of every single day, I would say it's going to be difficult if you want to, you know, get on that side of things, on the Clen, on the Yohimbine. I mean, Yohimbine made me feel awful. Like, it was as soon as I put Yohimbine in this prep, I lasted 3 days and I had to take it out. It was just, it felt like I was having cold shakes, you know, shivers, felt so low on energy, felt like crashy and stuff. And as soon as I took it out, it was fine. But I mean, I generally cope okay on Clen these days. I mean, the first 2 days is obviously you feeling a bit more tired and lethargic with it, because it's up in your metabolism, up in your heart rate. Anything that does that is, you are going to feel knackered on. But your body just get used to it. Mine gets used to it anyway. So yeah, I feel like it's something for people that know what they're in for. Only people that have researched it and spoken to a lot of people before, I think, should do it. If you don't know what, you know, if your coach just goes to you, right, here's Clen, and you go, what's that? You know, go away and do your research first. Go away and speak to a lot of people first, and know what you're in for. You know what I mean? There's so many other things out there. So
yeah,
for me, like my last prep, I only did Clen, and towards the end, it was I threw some T3 in. That helped a bit. I didn't want to be on T3 all the way through my prep, because, you know, studies show that it can reduce your muscle a little bit, eat into your muscle. So I didn't want to risk that side of it, but, you know, I did throw it in towards the end just to get a little bit leaner, and it worked. So, you know, Clen is my go-to. You know, you have got things like the SARMS side of things, so like Harderine you can take as well. I personally haven't touched SARMS, so I don't know, you know, I can't speak from experience on SARMS. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people these days, especially people that just casually go to the gym, are taking SARMS.
yeah.
You've got that whole new world now. You've got steroids, which are massively researched.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. Steroids are so researched that you can responsibly take them, because there's so much information out there about them. You know, I say, right, it's responsible because you can go and do your own research on them. You can see the effects it has on your body, and you can see what it's going to do to you in the long run. Okay, so that's responsible in my mind, because you know what risk factor there is. Yeah. With SARMS, you got this whole new world there. The SARMS have not been around long enough for us to do long-term research on. So for me, putting SARMS into my body is just a bit, you know, there's not enough research there. So I wouldn't want to do that, because it's an oral, it's a pill, you just pop.
Yeah.
People do it because it's easy.
Yeah,
it's
and also, you can get SARMs on like Predator Nutrition. I remember the first time I saw them, I was like, what? You can get this like delivered to your house. And of course, there is that taboo of, you know, with PEDs, especially I find with females not wanting to inject, some males as well. We've actually touched on this on the pod before, that people almost see it as like more intense or worse, or, oh my God, you're going to inject. Yeah. But actually, you know, things like if you're going to incorporate L-carnitine, actually, when you use it through an injectable source, compared to if you were having it orally, you'd have to take so many tabs, and the uptake is so much lower, you know, 30% maybe, compared to if you inject. And actually, if you're going to go down the assisted route properly and use PEDs, then using a stack of different PEDs with the safer use model, it is going to be more effective, but people do get scared by going down the injectable route.
As soon as people see a needle, that's it. It's
Yeah.
game over. They don't want to inject. No one wants to inject. But yeah, 100% injecting is a much more responsible way of taking PEDs rather than orals. Orals give so much stress to your liver and kidneys. You know, obviously injectables do to a certain extent,
Yeah.
but the orals do, you know, a lot of orals are hepatotoxic. That's to your liver, you know, damaging to your liver and stuff. So if you can take injectables, or for me personally, it's all day long over orals.
Yeah.
You know, and that includes SARMs, obviously. So yeah, it's just a case of what you want to do. What route do you want to go down? Do you want to go down fast and easy, long-term potential damage to your body, or do you want to go down, you know, potentially a little bit slower, injectable, a little bit scarier, but research is there for you to do, you know, for you to look at. So it's like, what do you want to do? And a hell of a lot of people these days are just going down the SARMS route because it's easier.
Yeah, and that's what people want, isn't it? It's like any diet as well. You know, you get people that you consult with and they almost want this magic pill, and it's this fictitious sort of, oh well, I've got to do all of that, you know. In a prep, I do find, unfortunately, the way that bodybuilding has gone, because it's so accessible now and it's so on Instagram and everything else, it's like this cool thing. And I believe you're similar to me in regards to, we have spoken about this before. We want to work for it. And when you go into a prep, you're not fucking around. You know what I mean? It's like, this is the plan. I'm not deviating from that. I'm not having meals out and all of these things. It's the prep is the prep. And then I focus on that. And then, you know, when you've got SARMs and things available so easily. And I personally found when I went down the assisted route by looking at the injectables, I had to put some work in to understand, which is what you've mentioned already, you know, to educate myself and actually go, okay, do I want to fully commit to this? People can't be fucked. And if you're not willing to even look into it and you're willing to go, actually, I'll just buy this, then is this the right sport for you? Because you need to have a look at the long-term effects as well. You know, people get into the sport when they're like 18, 20, you know,
even 16 now, you know, people are, you know, hitting the gym, taking SARMs at 15, 16 now. So it's getting scary. But it's like you talk about, you know, the safer use model. Safer use model. Now, I'm all for that. I've researched it for a long time, and because I want to do the safest use that I can. You know, for example, I never go over 300 milligrams of test a week.
Nice.
I was having a conversation with someone the other day. They've just started test, right?
Not 500. Please don't say 500.
800.
Oh, fucking hell.
I said, you're going to grow tits. You're going to get back knee. You're going to thin your hair. Have you done any research on it? No. Okay. Half your dosage. Take it even further down. But I've had conversations like that in the past as well. It's not the first conversation I've had. People and people just don't research it before they go injecting or before they take the pills or whatever. You know, I've known people on like 700 milligrams of Tren a week, which is, you know, that's
mental.
Do you need that much?
And it's also like, why I say 500, I don't know why so many people that I speak to are like, yeah, I'm on test, I run 500. It seems to be this like golden number. And you ask them why, and often it's, oh, well, you know, the guy that sold it to me said, take 500 or 400. And it's like, did you ask why? Oh, no, you know, he said, just have this amount, and that's about right. And then you can bring it right back, titrate it down, and then they get sometimes better results or same results. And then you can, there's escalation of a lot of PEDs that can be looked at if you're working with a coach and you're actually planning your PED use. And often I get a lot of people say to me, you know, oh, I bet you're running loads of gear, and I'm on such minimal exposure. And people are like, oh, okay. I didn't realize you could take that little and get so much.
That's it. When people ask me and I say I'm on 300 meg of test, they're like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's all I need. I can, you know, there's a massive umbrella of steroids. So test is your central one. And then you've got like your MAST, your Tren, your whatever on the outside. So you can always, you've got that base of test, but then you've got the umbrella to top it up. So, which is going to be less detrimental to your estrogen, androgen levels, etc. So, you know, you've got to look into and do your research on what you're taking 100%. Like, if you, the amount of conversations I've had with guys that just don't know what they're taking, I'm like, okay, do you know why you're taking that amount? And it's like, no.
Someone just told me to.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Should I tell you why it's 500 in my opinion? I think it's 500 because most test comes in 250 mg. So you look at testy per mil, it's 250 mg. So people will just say, right, jab 2 mil a week, done, easy. I don't have to explain that then, you know what I mean? Just take 2 mil a week and off you go. And that's 500 mg then. And I think that's probably why it's the golden number is 500. But everyone reacts differently, you know. Some kid could get gyno with 400 mg. Some kid could get gyno with 200 mg. I don't know, like, you know, it's less likely, but whatever. You got to get that safe amount, and you've got to know what's good for yourself. So, you know, I've always been all right on 300 mg, so that's what I use, like, for example.
For sure. And I think that, I'm sure you'll agree that actually, you know, when you do speak with people that are potentially looking at doing their prep for the first time, have they got their nutrition and training in order? You know, people, they try and jump on for coaching and they've done a bit of training, don't really track their food, like, and they want to jump straight into a prep and take X amount of PEDs, and you're like, you probably need to look at your training and nutrition first. And I certainly try and work with people to get that nailed first. And I'm almost that, like, I guess it's a bit old school, maybe, I don't know, but from my own personal preference, like, I felt like I needed to earn the right to bodybuild. Like, I've never just wanted to just jump in and think, oh, I'm a bodybuilder, I'm a competitor. And it wasn't until I started placing that I actually told people that I compete, because I've always felt like, you know, I don't want to just be in and do a bit of training, bit of nutrition. It's all or nothing for me. But we seem to have lost that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's where your winner's made, isn't it? Like, even, you know, it comes down to posing, it comes down to what you wear on stage, the little things like that, little details. And then obviously, you know, your training and nutrition comes first and foremost before anything else. And I always say to guys in the gym, I'll say, because they're, you know, they're 19, 20 years old, and they're saying, should I take gear? And I'm saying, no, like 100% no. Your test will be raging between the ages of like 16 and 24 or whatever. So there's no need to tape heads at all. If you're just going to the gym recreationally, there is absolutely no need to tape heads. Get your training right, get your nutrition right. I know a lot of natural people that look absolutely insane. You know, they haven't touched a pad ever. And that's what people need to realize, because the steroid culture is and SARMS culture is so big right now on social media. It's just, it has ruined it a bit for people, because you're going to see all these like kids with gyno and back knee and thinning hair at the age of 25 and stuff. And it's just sad. It's like, it doesn't need to happen at all. There's no need for it.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with a female competitor the other day, and she was talking about, you know, what shows she was going to do and what her aims from the sport were. And she competed a couple of weekends in a row and done quite well. And I said to her, you know, with the PED side, if you're looking at that route, you need to understand, okay, so why am I looking at that route? First of all, have I explored my natural potential? Because some people, I feel like, you know, I know you said you haven't done a prep naturally, but if you're in a position where you want to explore that and you want to just try competing, then why not do it naturally first, and however many times until you feel like, okay, I definitely want to do this sport, I want to pursue it, maybe look at pro cards and stuff. But I was saying to her, you know, unless you're looking at pro cards, unless you're looking at potentially going down the IFBB route or international, competing with different federations, if you're in the untested federations, then you're going to be against people that are on gear. And do you want to do that, or do you want to explore the natural federations and stay natural? And I think that people need to, you know, understand that if you're pushing into, she was pushing into a division like wellness, then she's going to need to accrue a lot of muscle, and it might mean that she needs to use a lot of PEDs. And is that worth it? And you need to make that informed decision.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. It's like, you know, going on to, you say this about the federations you're going into. So my aim when I started, you know, obviously I started with PCA, won that show, but my long-term goal over the next 5 years was to become, you know, get into two bros and try and become a IFBB pro. That was my long-term goal. I thought, if I'm gonna, because I didn't start, I'm 30, I've just turned 36. I started so I started using steroids when I was 30. Didn't start until I was 30. So that was my long-term goal. I thought, over the next 5 years I'm going to try and get an IFBB pro card. You know, it hasn't happened yet. Yep. I've come close. I've got 2 overalls with 2 bros. But yeah, it's like but it's not happened for me. But that's because I know where the areas I still need to improve on. You know, 6 years later, I'm still looking to improve areas. And that's something people need to realize, how long it takes. Like, even assisted, it takes so long to get to where you potentially, you know, could be. You know, you might not never. I know people that have competed in, I hate saying this, but smaller federations. You know, no disrespect to those federations. No. But and they've never tried to go further.
Yeah.
But they take loads of peds and they take loads of gear like they are a pro. And it's like, what are you getting out of this? I can't understand it. If that's their personal preference, that's fine. But it's like, what are you getting out of it? You're just trying to stand on stage to win, like just to get a first place, like try and aim higher, you know. But that's always been my mindset. That might not be everyone's mindset, you know. It's personal preference, like I say. I'm not trying to like slag anyone off, because I don't like to think I'm like that, but I just don't understand it personally. If you're standing on stage, you want to be standing on stage at the top, like top federations. If you're going to compete, if you're going to put all that in your body, if you're going to take your body to the absolute maximum, go for the top.
Yeah, because as well, you know, there is that, like I mentioned earlier, genetic potential as well. Some people are gonna have the good genetics that then support. They might be on a lower exposure because they've got good genetics, and then you might be someone that's not genetically gifted, and you've actually got to run a shitload of gear to, you know, get to that potential that you're talking about. And you know, like you say, is it worth it? It's that risk reward. Okay, yes, I know we all want to live in the moment at times, and it's like, no, you know, I'll do it now. I'm 23 or whatever. But if you haven't got that genetic makeup, you've got to push a load of gear. What's going to happen in 10 years time, 20 years time for females? Infertility, you know, masculinization, these things that don't get talked about, and they're not doing it from the informed approach. And then when you look at, you know, in a prep, if you're running things like Clen, your Himbine, caffeine, even like all of those things that go into it just to pretty much survive and get as shredded as possible, it is extreme. Like, you keep doing that, like you spoke about organ health, all of these things, because it's inside, you don't see, and people don't even get blood work done, you know.
I know, that is the craziest thing to me. I get my blood work done every 6 months. Okay, it's just standard. You have to do it. It's like, if you don't get your blood work done, it's like riding a car, you know, driving a car as fast as possible every single day and not getting it serviced or the oil. It just doesn't make sense. So if you know, I was surprised that when some of my blood work came through, for example, my liver enzymes were raised, okay, which I was expecting because I've been on Anavar, you know, Winstrol and stuff like that, you know, orals, and that's going to raise. Yeah, absolutely. I was sort of half expecting it. And then I worked as hard as I could to get them down. And I did. 6 months later, they were absolutely fine. They were perfect. But if I hadn't have known that, if I hadn't have got my blood work done, I would have never known that my liver enzymes are raised, and I could have carried on taking PEDs. I could have carried on living that lifestyle, and God knows what would happen to me in 10 years time. Like, how would my liver be in 10 years time? I don't know. But yeah, you've got to absolutely get your blood work done. If you're going to go down the PEDs route, you have to get your blood work done. It's just you know, that it's a rule basically in my mind. So yeah, I would never not get my blood work done. It's just to have conversations with people and they're like, how'd you get your blood work done? It's like, yeah, okay.
There's a thing called Medichecks.
There's quite a few now actually. There's Medichecks, the Blood Lab. Yeah, there's a few others, but Medichecks is what I use, and they send a doctor's note through as well. So it's perfect for what I need. You can actually go to your GP as well. So I never knew this, but you could go to your GP. So I went to my GP last year, and they did one test. Then I went to go 6 months later in November, and they wouldn't do it. So they said, you can only have one, okay? Unless you've got anything wrong with you, and then you can have another one. So unless your like liver enzymes, for example, are out of whack, you know, then come back and have another one. But my blood work was perfect last year, so I didn't actually need another one. So that's where I use Medichecks, for example. So yes, so people listening to this, you can go to your GP and ask for one.
Yeah. And also, if you are a natural athlete, I had blood tests when I was natty, and actually over the years, everything started to go the wrong way. Another consideration for me going down the assisted route was to bring my test up, because it was very, very low from doing, of course, back-to-back preps. It's not ideal. And I actually had one of my kidneys was affected. My T3 and T4 were in the gutter. And you know, extreme dieting as a natural, it is a consideration, you know, getting your blood work done and seeing exactly what's happening. Because when you're pushing to get stage lean, it's so tough on your body, your organs, and if you're not looking at your blood work, nobody's going to check that. You know, ordinarily you don't go for a checkup on your organ health. So how are you to know if your hormones are at a point where really you should then go into your next prep after a maintenance off season, whatever that may be? And things like menstrual cycle as well, of course, for females, that drops out in a lot of preps towards the end in particular.
Yeah, that's it. Females have a much tougher time than males, that's for sure. That is for sure. Like you can, like you say, you can stop your periods, and you can completely mess up your hormonal profile. You know, males can as well, but more so females. It's just such a stress on the body, the whole body, and it can take months for the periods to come back. It can take a long time for your body to get back to homeostasis. You know, so it's very, very tough for the females. It's just hard when you've got, you know, you're pushing your body to a limit that it shouldn't be pushed. Let's face it.
Yeah.
You know, bodybuilding isn't a healthy sport whatsoever.
Definitely not.
Like, just to put that out there, it's a fucking stupid sport.
I mean, when you actually look at it, and this is what I try and speak to people that come to me, I never want to put it down on someone wanting to get to stage, but there's different levels. So you mentioned earlier about amateur divisions. Now, I feel like they're almost there for people to have that opportunity to compete, see how they get on. First of all, do you like it? Is it worth doing, you know, say a 6-month prep to get to stage, have your show experience? Was that worth it? Okay, so do I want to do it again? And do I want to progress and go into an off season? So once that's boxed off, and if you're going to prep in the future, then it becomes that point where you've done it before, there's no expectations. Okay, great day, whatever your placing was. Then it's, do I want to progress my physique? Do I want to do that again? And then it's, do I want to then move up per se to a federation that's going to potentially have international opportunities, pro cards, this type of thing. And it is that risk reward, and people looking at this as, you know, it's not just, okay, let's fuck around and do a prep, because like you say, you are putting yourself at risk if you're getting lean. Again, if you want to compete, and you do see people compete, and I don't mean this in any other way than what it is, that haven't got stage lean. They've got lean, which is, you'd look at them and go, they look pretty good, like they've done very well, but they haven't dug to the extreme lean that we're talking about when we're talking about, you know, health risks, etc. So maybe it's not something you pursue and you just look good, you know what I mean? You don't have to compete.
No, you don't have to. That's the thing. I personally, I compete because I love that challenge.
Me too.
I love it. Like, there's no better feeling waking up every single day, knowing I've got boxes to tick, and knowing by the end of the 12 weeks or whatever it is, 16 weeks,
Yeah.
I will be inside out shredded.
Yeah, I love it.
It's wicked. Like, you just watch yourself change. Like, I went from, like, I've seen photos of me from last year, and I'm like, I look completely different. Like, you change yourself completely. It's really weird. But I love that feeling, and there's no better feeling for me personally. But like, for someone like you say, just trying to get into the sport and just go for it, like, not casually, because they'll, you know, prep hard for them. But if they want to try it out and see what it's like, yeah, absolutely go for the amateur divisions, and then you can work your way up. And I mean, that's what I did personally.
Yeah,
You know, I won my first PCA show, and that was where I was like, right, I'm good at this. Might as well carry it on. And I suffered that first prep. That was horrible. That was a horrible prep.
yeah.
But that's what most of them are like. I'll tell you what, now it's got so much easier as the years have gone on.
That's a
So,
very good point, though.
yeah, like, I, I hate to say it, but I found the last prep easy.
This is, yeah, I always have this, I have this conversation. I say it gets easier, but it's never easy per se,
Yeah,
because you understand what goes into a prep, right? Like, we know if tomorrow prep starting, tomorrow it is time to switch it the fuck on. And you get this, like, I guess it's a skill where, you know, you can be going from height of off season where, you know, you've been out for a meal, had a lovely day. The next day you start prep, no more meals out. You're, you know, boxing, like you say, all these boxes to tick. You've got so much to do in a day, but it's not a problem for us. We do it. And I think a lot of the time we maybe don't give ourselves credit for it. And that's, you know, when it's always like when you voice it and say it's easy,
yeah.
it's like, I shouldn't be saying like that, but it
I
is.
feel
But we want it as well. Like, we
that's,
want it.
you know what, I'm so grateful for the people that come up to me and say, I can't understand how you do it. Like, how do you do it? And I'm just like, it's just normal for me. I don't think about it. It's not. I'm like, I just say I'm like a robot. Like, I just do it. It's
It
not
is
a problem.
though.
Yeah.
And I
It's
think, you know, it goes back to what is your why? Why are you doing this? Because I don't know about you, but I never question anything. My coach says to me, do this, and I do it and probably do a bit more, and he has to pull me back because I'm like, well, if I could exceed my target of steps and get a bit more expenditure, I'm in. Like, it's not a negotiable. And I think that when you do work with people and there is that pushback, it's like, why are you doing it then? You don't have to do this. You don't have to
yeah, choice.
self in this way. It's not, just like I mentioned earlier, you know, just look good. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's like, I know a lot of people that have said they hate prep and they hate the way they feel,
Yeah.
and I'm like, stop them. It's as simple as that. If
Why
you
you
don't,
enjoy
why?
it?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. If you don't like, if you don't enjoy anything in life, don't do it. I mean, I don't want to seem like, Gandhi or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same, you know, like, I don't ever want to be like, oh, you know, bodybuilding, you've always got to be thankful, you've always got to be this, etc. Because I get it, right? Like, people are going through tough times, and
Yeah,
you've probably been there in preps in the past. I've, you know, like, my granddad died in a prep, but what happened was it actually made me more motivated to do him proud, and, you know, get to my why was there, get to stage, really push into the prep. If anything, I probably funneled a bit more into it because of going through that. And there's lots of things that happen in every prep. I've broken arm, I've fractured a ankle, but you keep pushing on because we want to do that. And when I say be grateful for the opportunity, probably similar to you, it's because we don't have to do this, we want to. And what in my mind, what is cooler than exploring your physique and seeing what you can do? Like, it's literally the coolest thing ever.
It's like, what is underneath this fat? Oh, it's like a physique, and I can see every vein and muscle. It's crazy. Yeah, it's awesome. It's like I've been called, a biology lesson so many times, like a anatomy chart. That's it. Yeah. So it's just fun, isn't it? Like, and be grateful for the opportunity, because we can do it. We have the opportunity to do it. There's not a lot of people out there that can do it. We're in a minimal percentage. So people that can prep and jump on stage at a minimal body fat, it might seem like, I don't know, something that might seem vain to people, but for us, it's just something that's unique, and
so cool.
like, we're able to do. Not a lot of people can do it at all, and you've got to have that, months of just consistency over and over and over. It's great. And you mentioned about your granddad. That's really weird, because my granddad passed away in January when I just started my prep this year. So it fueled that fire. It just makes you want to go harder. It makes you want to do him proud. So it's like, when you have turmoil in your life, when you have, trauma, etc., sometimes it can fuel that fire. And you can use it. It depends what personality you are, but you can use it as fire. So it can be a good thing if you spin it like that.
Yeah, it's again as well, leaning on. I think that I don't want to sound like I'm, saying to people that they should just push on all the time or whatever, which is what we're saying we do, because it does breed a certain personality type. But something happening in your life, if that then gives you an excuse to not do this or to miss whatever's in your day for your prep or this type of thing, again, I always fall back on, is this a sport for you? Because maybe that's showing that it isn't. And I must keep saying it, like, it's okay if you don't want to prep and you get to a point where you pull out, because it's not for everyone. Like you say, the very small percentage of people that actually do a prep and get to stage, it's, you wouldn't know, because you think, oh, everyone on stage, they've had it fine, they've done their prep, they've competed. But actually, when I'm judging at shows and they say how many athletes have entered and then how many turn up, like, it's a massive difference. And you're like, oh, okay, people have not seen it through. And it is mental. And I always say to people that do compete, it's sick what you've done. I really thrive on the journey. Like you mentioned, the daily tasks that you have to do. Like, then competing is like, my coach always says, we're having a nice day out. Like, this is celebrating what you've done,
Yeah, that's it. Celebrations are great at the end. Fantastic. No better feeling. Yeah. And you're like, it's like almost when you've done a show, it's like being freed from prison. Like, I don't want to sound
it is.
It's like free to do what you want. And it's like, just that feeling alone is just incredible. I don't prep to get to the end and have that feeling. I prep to get on stage and win. But yeah, that feeling as well, it's like a little added bonus. It's really good. And like, bodybuilding is definitely the most selfish sport you could ever do. And, people struggle with that are around you. But again, it depends on your personality type. So I can quite happily just plod along every day, doing my prep. And it's like, it doesn't really affect anyone else. But that's because I'm a very grounded person. I'm quite consistent in my mood. So I don't treat anyone differently. Maybe the last 2 weeks, I'm a little bit quiet and a little bit, I'm not able to communicate with people as well. I'm not like this. I'm not all bubbly and, like
maintenance.
I can't talk with my hands and stuff. Now I'm in maintenance. I can.
Yeah.
But I can't do that last 2 weeks of prep because I'm just absolutely exhausted. And that's the only time I really sort of suffer with it. So, the first few weeks especially, I'm absolutely fine. I'm just myself. Like, it's not a problem at all for me. But a lot of people do suffer with it. And it can be detrimental to relationships. especially like relationships take a big strain when it comes to people prepping. So it can be, yeah, selfish in that sense. And it's like, right, is it worth it for your personal life? Maybe not. You know, you've also got to think about that. So we were talking about the steroids things. Was it worth it for that? You've also got to think about your personal life. So you got to think about your work. You got to think about relationships. You got to think about your children, for example.
Yeah.
If any of those things are going to be affected by you doing your prep for an amateur show,
Is it worth
it? Probably not.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got to go to that point again where it's like, right, is it worth it? And I don't want to put a downer on bodybuilding, because bodybuilding is fantastic. It's got me to where I am today. I absolutely love it. I've got a lot to thank for it. But yeah, you got to ask yourself certain questions before you go into a prep and before you commit.
Yeah, it's
Definitely.
also being truthful. You know, this is what I love about having guests like yourself, because we're actually having a conversation that's completely organic and it's putting it out there, you know, our thoughts from years of experience in the sport. And actually, I just remembered I had a conversation the other day, something when in my previous preps, probably like the first 2 or 3, I was in an unhappy marriage. So that didn't help, but I funneled everything into bodybuilding. And I actually, because I was quite unhappy, I'd be really happy in my like work life. No one knew, you know, it was just me. And I'd go home from a prep day and, you know, you're doing, I don't know, 15,000 steps, say, then you do your posing practice, you do your food prep and you eat your food, you do your training. I'd get home and I'd be like, well, where's my red carpet? Like, why isn't anyone telling me that I've really done a great day? You know, you're doing really well. It was just walking into this unhappy space. And I'd be like, well, why is no one congratulating me what I've done, you know, today? And then I'd have this like almost put myself on a pedestal for years where it's like I should be congratulated for doing this. And then I realized, actually I'm choosing to do this. Like, why am I in this spot? And you sort of, I guess the aim of the conversation when I was talking about it, and I had that reflection, was like, you think that you're doing something special, you think that you're elite. And I've actually spoken about this in regards to food and stuff. You know, when I used to prep before, and I feel like I was doing it for the right reasons, but maybe some of the wrong reasons, I'd look at people eating, I'd think, you get to eat that, why don't I get to eat that? Why the fuck are you eating shit? I'm tracking my food. I had this like sense of hierarchy, and it made me reflect and think, you know, what was I even thinking? And I was in this like really weird spot. And I think that would probably be quite common, especially for first timers, when you're putting so much in. Nobody tells you well done on a daily basis. You're like,
You know, no one cares.
literally,
No one
nobody
cares.
cares.
No one cares. It's like you can shout about it on Instagram until you're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, people are just going to hit next story.
Yeah.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. Maybe they'll give it a double tap, but the majority of the time they're just whatever. If that's what they're used to seeing from you, they'll just carry on. And it's just, yeah, the same. It can be the same with partners as well. So yeah, partners just might not care what you're doing, you know,
They bored of it.
yeah.
They are bored. You know, it's like, again, talking about relationships, there is that likelihood that things like sex drive are going to decrease in a prep. So, you know, like you spoke about there, we could probably delve into a bit of the emotional changes, I guess, that you experience in a prep. And if people are listening and maybe it's their first prep, because I get a lot of first timers listen, what is sort of normal to feel? And I would say, being in a happy relationship for my past prep, like that was a night and day difference. So of course, assessing what your relationship is anyway before a prep, but the mood fluctuations, again, depending on natural and assisted with things like stims, etc., it is normal to experience low mood as the prep progresses and the energy levels aren't as available, like you mentioned earlier.
Massively. So I mean, firstly, you know, you've got the tiredness and lethargy side of things. You've got that absolute exhaustion. You're not going to want to come home and fuck your partner. Like,
You've done enough.
there is that. It's gonna take a toll on your relationship. It 100%. Unless you are both in the bodybuilding world and you know what's happening,
which is handy.
yeah, massively handy. You're not going to understand it. You're gonna feel rejected. You're gonna feel like, why doesn't this person want to have sex with me? And it's because you are just tired. And then they'll ask questions, and it's like, I don't know how to communicate this because I'm too tired to communicate it. And then, you know, there's aspects of that that can break down a relationship. There's also the PED side of things. So the PEDs will eventually make you more tired. They'll have, you know, different reactions on your hormones. So you're not going to be as sexually active anyway, because you're just slamming in a load of PEDs, and that's just messing up levels as well. So you got to look at that side of things. It's like there is a whole pot of things here, which is going to potentially cause issues in a relationship. And if you don't openly communicate with your partner, it's just not going to work. It's not, because it's a massive thing, prep. You know, people see it as, oh, he's just getting on stage at the end of however many weeks, whatever. But no, it's like there's so much that happens in your body, hormonally, mentally. There's so many things that happen. And it's just, right, okay, if you have a partner, you need to sit down at the start of your prep and explain, this is going to be tough. This could put a strain on our relationship, but I'm here to support you, whatever. Like, you know, just make sure that you are reassuring your partner, because they won't have that reassurance from you daily, because you haven't got the energy to say it all the time, or you haven't got the want to say it or need to say it, because you think what you're doing is normal, but then your partner's sitting there thinking something else. So communication is massively important during a prep. Massively.
Yeah, and with your coach as well, you know, when you are experiencing these types of things like low mood, energy levels, etc., if you speak to your coach, if they're a good coach, hopefully, fingers crossed, then you know, they, like we're saying now, you know, they can explain that this is normal. And I remember conversations with my previous coaching preps where he said you need to sit down with your partner and speak to them about this. You know, it's not that I don't like you or I don't want to have sex with you, but it is at the point where, you know, it's really tough, and I'm struggling even to put one foot in front of the other at times, you know?
Yeah, there's going to be times like that, 100%. And it's like, okay, well, you've got to, again, it's going back to, is it worth it? It's like, yeah, I mean, like I've navigated through preps very, very well. Like I've never, as far as I'm aware, I haven't caused issues when I'm on a prep, like, as far as I'm aware. But that's because, again, going back to, if you're a grounded person, you're not going to change much during a prep anyway. You're just going to carry on with it. It's everyday life. Just, you know, yeah. Say again.
And shrink.
Yeah, that's it.
It is also, as well, like you touched on there, if you're with someone that gets it, and potentially being with a bodybuilder, like in my last prep, when I started using cleanyohimbine and then the growth hormone in the morning that I use, then I was doing a fasted walk with a black coffee, and then it titrated up, and Matt, my partner, was like, I'll do the fasted walks with you. And it got to the point where I was doing 8,000 steps fasted just with a black coffee, have my stims, do my growth, my L cart, go for the walk, and then come back and eat meal one. And he did exactly the same with me, because he was like, I want to support you where I can, and obviously I'm on a lot more food than you ordinarily, but if I can do something like that. And that really helped, because when you start having to do this type of stuff, you know, like a 8,000 step walk, like it's quite a long period of time when you've eaten fuck all the day before you wake up. Stims obviously help suppress your appetite, right? But you know, you're pretty fucked. And then that was his sort of, I guess, gesture towards me to go, I want to support you in that portion where I can. The other stuff you've got to do, and I'll be around. But maybe, you know, having that conversation with your partner, if there's stuff like that you can do, if you work full time, maybe when you do your weekend walk, stuff like this, it's cool to do that together if you can.
Yeah, massively. Like it's so nice to have a partner that's, you know, that wants to come on walks with you and stuff like that. Like it's great. Like, so my girlfriend, for example, she comes on walks with me. You know, so my previous prep that I've just finished, we would go for a walk every Sunday for 2 hours, you know, because that's what I needed to do. And I'm so grateful for that. It's just small things like that. It's just like, yes, I'll do this with you. And it's not a problem because she understands that world, you know, the bodybuilding world. So it's nice to definitely have that in a partner. And what Matt did for you, like that's huge. That's massive. That's going on the next level.
Yeah.
It's because not many partners out there that would do that at
Yeah.
all, you know, to go to that extent. So when you've got someone like that, it just makes it so much easier.
Yeah,
Massive.
and it's really cool as well. I mean, he knows about PDs. We both went down the assisted route around the same time. And, you know, as we've touched on already, there's certain things that you start to deploy during a prep when you are getting leaner. And if you're down the assisted route, you know, you start to look at different ways to manipulate fat loss and continue to bring yourself into a deficit because the food's going low, and then you start bringing maybe your clean use up and stuff like this. And he understood that going from, it was like overnight, a 4,000 fasted step, doing, you know, what I've already spoken about before, getting on the fasted walk, to then 8,000 steps, how much that would help the deficit, how much that would, you know, you're leaning on maximizing the growth, the L cart, you know, all of the stims, things like that, having the black coffee, using caffeine. He gets all of that. So he's like, yeah, that's cool. But like you say, it's massive. Like when I think back, I think, would I want to do an 8,000 step fasted for him if he was in a prep? I don't know.
I'll stop, mate. See you later.
Oh, it's mental. And also,
Yeah.
I don't know about you with the clen and stuff like that. You know, when I was having times where it was like I am stimmed out my brain, I could use him to like steady me a bit, like have that support. Because sometimes you're thinking like I'm pretty fucked here with the stims and the deficit and everything.
That's it. So when I'll say, I compare it to walking through mud.
Yeah.
It feels like you're walking through mud. You can hardly lift a foot. So all you want to do is just, you know, cuddle up on the sofa. That's all you want to do. Like, yeah, just like be a fetus. You know what I mean? Like that's what you want to do, literally. So to have someone there that wants to do that with you is nice, and they'll be like, right, I'll prep your food for you. You know, I know what you're having. When it's nice to have that in a partner. You know what I mean? Like, there's no better feeling to have someone that's supporting you and not questioning why you're doing this,
Yeah.
and not, you know, and just helping each other. That's what it's about. You know, that's what a relationship is about, and what it's based on, helping each other. You're a team, aren't you, at the end of the day? So that's extremely important to have that in someone. So yeah, I mean, like when I'm stimmed out of my face, it's like all you want to do is just like curl up and just, yeah, at the end of the day, right, I've done all my cardio, I've done my training, I've got like one meal to eat, I'm just gonna sit on the sofa and mong. Like, yeah. And you got someone that'll help you.
It's a really strange feeling because you're like, the
Yeah,
first time it hit me, I was literally like, what? Like I said earlier, I was thinking this monster, like what the fuck is going on? And then I was like, oh yeah, I've started taking Glen.
yeah, that's it. It's like when you stack stims on stims and you're not realizing, it's like, what's happening? It's a crazy feeling. But as long as you don't get admitted to hospital, you're fine.
For sure. With around food in a prep, I in my last prep went from 5 meals a day to 4 meals a day, so I could have more food per meal.
Yeah,
What do you do with your nutrition in a prep? How many meals do you have a day?
stick religiously to six,
Yeah.
six a day. Yeah. So when I say meals, one could be a protein shake, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
So post-workout protein shake. So yeah, it's religiously 6 meals, and I would just do that as a routine, and then reduce the amount of food in each one, or just one at a time, you know, each week, and that's how it works every prep for me, because that's how I'm used to working. So like, yeah, you do it in a sensible way where you're getting more food per meal, but for me, it's just like, right, I've got that 6 meals, I know exactly what I'm eating, I can prep it, bish bash bosh, I'm done, you know, easy. So for me, the diet side of things is just like it's
Make it
robotic.
easy.
Yeah, make it as easy as possible. And what did I do? This prepper, I just made it more basic actually. And I didn't like, I took all the sauces out of it and everything. I was just eating plain.
Yep, me too.
People thought I was a freak. Like, they were like, "What? How would you do that?" I'm like, you know what? Air fried chips and air fried potato and chicken. It's great. I
Yeah,
love it.
well,
So,
yeah, salt for me, I lean on salt a lot. I remember when my coach stayed with me before one of my shows and he was like, "Oh, your salt intake's not an issue then." And I was like, "No, I heavily salt things." But
yeah,
for me in a prep, right, you've got to let go of satiation to a certain degree. Like, you're never going to sit there and go, "Well, I'm fully satiated here from a prep meal." Like, you know, there's an air of hunger. I actually said this to a client yesterday. Are you hungry for success, or are you hungry for one meal that's not going to satiate you because you're in such a deep deficit, and actually you're going to be fucked off that you didn't stick to plan. You're going to have
yeah.
to take calories away from the next few days to facilitate that. Hunger is inevitable. If anyone's listening to this in their ears, having a walk on their prep,
Yeah.
this is something that we have to learn to tolerate if we're in a sport like bodybuilding, isn't it?
But what I can say to that is your body gets used to it.
Yeah.
The hormones will change and you'll get used to it. So the first couple of weeks will be horrendous. You will have hunger pangs and stuff. There's no getting around.
I want to eat my hand.
Yeah, but as soon as that sort of hunger pang finishes, you will be used to it and you will feel fine. Like in my experience anyway. It's fine. I try not to eat too many artificial things.
Yeah.
So, like, the previous podcast we were talking about like me prepping like sugar-free jelly and stuff like that. I just didn't do that on this prep at all. I didn't have many artificial. I think the only artificial thing I was eating was protein powder.
Yeah.
That was it. So, and you know what? My body came in 12 weeks without a problem. So I responded really well, dropped 15 kilo. So, yeah.
And I do think that probably similar to me, I did that exactly the same in the last prep. Like, I just thought, what's the point in having things on top of, this food needs to be pretty plain. For me, my priority was digestion. Like you say, you came in pretty quick.
Yeah.
You got to think about what are in these things. I'll have sweetener in a coffee, but I was just like, I'm just going to resign myself to the fact that I need to keep this as easy as possible and not fuck around. Like in previous preps right at the start, I'd have a fucking skinny syrup or a skinny sauce with every single meal.
Oh my God.
Was fucked.
I went crazy on skinny sauces, like on the second prep, I think it was, and I was bloated. I had indigestion. Oh, so much. Yeah, it was just because I was putting so many sweeteners and artificial shit in my body.
Yeah,
I had so much inflammation in my body, and I was just bloated all the time. I felt horrendous. So this prep, I thought, right, now I'm quite far. It was my 5th year of prepping, I think. And I was like, I'm going to keep it as plain as possible. I'm going to stay gluten free. That was a massive thing for me. And I had not one day did I feel bloated, not one. Yeah. So I had my off plan meal most weeks. I think the first 6 weeks of my prep this year, I didn't have an off plan meal. I didn't go off plan.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to just get that weight off as soon as possible. I just wanted to cut as fast as possible. I knew I only had 12 weeks to work. So I was like, right, fuck it. Let's just go in hard. And then when I dropped a lot of weight, I was like, right, I'm going to have one off plan meal a week now. Yeah. So that's what I did. And yeah, it's like, even with that off plan meal, I didn't have much artificial shit at all. So yeah, if I can recommend one thing, it's keep the artificial stuff out of it. I mean, my natural client that I've just put into PCA first timers, he competed the other weekend, like 2 weekends ago, Joel. So he was having a lot of artificial stuff that I didn't realize. And luckily he told me 4 weeks out, and I said, right, get rid of that. just get rid of all that artificial stuff. Like he was having like protein bars and like the skinny sauce and stuff. I was like, right, let's drop that out completely, mate. Let's just go absolutely natural food from now on. You know, stick to the food I've given you, which you should have been on anyway, but never mind.
But this is honestly, this is so legit with coaching. Like, you know, you mentioned their protein bars. I tried to wangle protein bars into my macros for years, and then I was like, for me, it became when you're in such a severe deficit that often comes from a prep, what should you be prioritizing? So in this last prep, it was as many vegetables as I can fit in my macros, as much salad, as many fruits, because of course we're looking at health, being as healthy per se as possible in prep. You know, it's not a healthy sport, like we've said, but you still got things like fiber targets to hit. And I know you get fiber in things like protein bars, but whole foods, lean on those in a prep. You know, stop searching for things that are going to satiate you for 5 minutes, because protein bars don't fill you up either, you know.
It's just that I know people need that hit, that sweet chocolate hit.
Yeah, I get it.
You know, I give people like 2 squares of dark chocolate, so use it from that if you need it. But yeah, I mean, try and keep out all the artificial shit like the protein bars and stuff, because anything man-made is definitely going to have some sort of inflammation effect on your body, and you're going to hold water potentially, so it's just going to be detrimental to you in the long run. So keep whole natural foods in. I'll tell you what, like you, I use loads of salad, like all the salad, all of it. And it's just a no-brainer really, because you just fill in your stomach and it's gonna just fit. I'll tell you what I also used, it was cashew nuts was my treat. Like cashew nuts with my chicken salad, it was great, fantastic. So little
it's
things
so
like
funny, isn't it, that that's a treat to us? Like, people don't get it. I had a conversation the other day with a client, D, and she was having a protein yogurt as dessert after we'd had a meal together, and we had apple crumble, and she was like, I'm happy with my protein yogurt. She's dieting, we've got a photo shoot book, and she's like, I actually really enjoy the protein yogurt. And I was like, we had this reflection of people outside of bodybuilding are like, fucking hell, I feel really sorry for you having a protein yogurt, but I love protein yogurt.
Yeah, anything you can get your hands on at that point is like, oh, amazing. Yeah, great.
It's so funny how you end up going into these. Like, in my last prep, I was having 8 grams of peanut butter in the evening, and I'd put it in my mouth and just for a couple of minutes just be like swirling it around, and then I'd be happy to go to bed, you know.
Absolutely. I what was I having? I was having just 250 grams of Greek yogurt before I went to bed.
Yeah,
that was the best thing of the day. Oh, I loved it. It's just plain yogurt, but I absolutely loved it. Oh, it's so weird. We're so weird. Like,
we are so weird. We could probably wrap up with talking a little bit about posing practice. Now, I've released a pod with Emma talking about the importance of posing, and you will probably agree with me, as we have mostly through this pod. Now, with posing, for me, I don't know about you, and also working with clients, for me, it's a massive priority, because when I step on stage, or when a client steps on stage, for me, practicing your posing, working with a posing coach, and nailing your execution should be an internal thing. So you stand on stage with pride that you've poured a hell of a lot into the posing practice. Now, I know when you watch a show and you watch people place maybe higher than people that have worked on their posing, it's like, well, they haven't fucking done the posing practice.
yeah,
I'm sure you'll agree that I would always say the importance of posing practice and exhibiting your best physique, regardless of your placing. If you can stand on that stage knowing you've nailed that, on top of nutrition, training, and everything else, is a far greater achievement than placing and not doing something like your posing practice.
yes, 100%. I agree. Like, if you get on stage and you don't pose well, you're not going to place. Sorry, like, it's just simple. So the judges are going to make their judgment on you in the first 5 seconds of seeing you, probably 2 seconds actually. So they're going to judge your physique from the moment you walk on that stage. So first of all, you just need to have a big smile, like, and look happy to be there.
Yep.
So people look just nervous as hell and just
or,
like,
or like they hate it.
or like they hate it. They're not smiling. Like, that's crazy. You've worked so hard for this day. Enjoy it. Like, yeah, that's mad to me. So get on that stage, smile as much as you can, and make sure that that first pose that you hit in that lineup is as strong as hell. Like, because the judges are going to judge you in that first 2 seconds of seeing you. As soon as people hit their first pose, you've been judged right there. That's it. So that first pose is massive. Then obviously you've got the mandatories, which is just, yeah, you just got to keep going basically. So yes, your first pose is important, but then just, if you haven't worked on your posing, it will stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, because there's such thing as posing fitness, isn't there? Like, you know, my posing practice I do is I tend to go for like a minimum of 20 minutes. My coach actually said to do a bit less than that, but I was like, most federations you're on a maximum of say 20 minutes. So I thought, right, I'd rather do more and work on the posing fitness and hold my own on stage. And also it all falls down to when you get on stage. If you've practiced this, you can own the stage because you're like, well, I know what the fucking hell I'm doing. It's a habit.
Yeah, of course. It's a habit. You just flow into it. It's just natural to you. And like, I also practice my posing during my training sessions. So I'll do a set, and after every single set, I will hold a pose for 20 seconds or whatever. Yeah, that's it. Literally, like men's feet pose. And in my opinion, you've got to do that because you've got to get used to the feeling of holding that pose. And if you don't get used to the feeling of holding that pose, how are you gonna win? Unless you've got an absolute phenomenal physique and you blow all the others out of the water. Then if it's between first and second, they're gonna pick the person with the best posing.
Yeah, and you know as well, when you see people compete and they haven't got the posing fitness, their physique can deteriorate during that time on stage. When you watch it happen, like I'm sure you've seen it, you're like, fucking hell, that person came out and they look sick, and where are they gone?
Yeah.
It's like
So I did when I won my second overall at Two Bros. So there was a guy next to me, and he wasn't holding his posing properly at all, and he kept fidgeting and moving, and I was just dead still, holding my strongest pose, staring at porridge. Oh, what is that? I hate that.
I know. Every guest I have on the pod is like, why do people stir the porridge? It's so annoying.
It really is. It's like you're taking the judge's eye away from your physique by doing that.
It's so annoying.
So annoying. But yeah, it's literally so true. But the guy next to me was fidgeting, and I honestly thought he was going to beat me, but he couldn't hold his poses in the overall, because he's, I don't know, obviously he was tired, he was depleted and whatever. But I managed to hold mine, and I think that went for me quite well. So I was, you know, I've learned from that, especially. It's like, hold your pose. Do not fidget. Do not change.
This is so true. Like, I always say this to people. Backstage, of course, stay in your lane as much as you can, but you could see someone like you just said there. I've seen girls that I think they're going to beat me, but they can't pose for shit, and I beat them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. It's happened to me as well. Like, I thought two guys in that overall were going to beat me. I thought I was going to come third in that overall, and I won it. But I think it was mainly due to my posing. But who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I was like, from that moment on, that was 2 years ago, I was like, every single time I hit a pose, I'm holding it. I'm being confident as hell. And that's what I teach my clients as well. I'm saying to them, be confident. Even if you don't feel confident, pretend.
And look what you've put. I always say this. Look what you've put into this prep. You've put your life. I mean, it is on hold to a certain degree. We love it, so it's not. But you've put a lot into 6 months. You get 10, 15, 20 minutes. Like, rinse it.
Yeah. Rinse it. Enjoy it. Love it. Like, there's nothing better than being on stage. Yeah. Unless you're nervous and you're shitting yourself, then it's probably not fun. But if you've put in the most work that you can, if you've nailed it, you should enjoy your time on stage. And even if you haven't, just enjoy it anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you might get an invite to the PCA finals, for example. I don't know, but there's always a chance. If you're standing on that stage, if you made it that far, there's a chance that you're going to place.
What a way to end the pod, Tim. This is exactly what, from talking about prep on the pod, that I wanted to obviously talk about the difference in preps. But if you've got that far, you've got on stage, just try to enjoy it, or pretend that you enjoy it, because this is your shot. And like you say, some people compete and they win or they place and they get an invite or whatever, and they weren't expecting. And it's like, oh, actually, I did do a lot of work to get here,
Yeah.
Enjoy that moment, enjoy that time, and just celebrate what you've done. Like,
Yeah, massively.
Prep, we've touched on a lot of things, but there's so much more we could talk about what can happen in a prep. Like, it is mental when you look back. You're like, blimey, I did quite a lot there.
Yeah. Oh, I did all right, didn't I?
Yeah. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate you coming back on.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much for inviting me. I appreciate it. It's been great.
No problem. And we shall keep an eye on your Instagram for your next outing. I like to call it an outing, a little day out, cherry on top of the cake of prep, and then you get to eat cake after the show.
What could be better?
Although I remember you don't particularly like sweet stuff, so maybe we're going to a carvery or something, but it's all good.
Good. Yeah, a carvery could do. Probably a Nando's. Nando's is better. I'm a basic.
Chicken.
Yeah, I'm such a basic bitch when it comes to that.
I am. After a show, I'm like, all I've eaten is carbs today. Just give me some fucking meat.
Yeah, that's it.
Love it. I will put your Instagram in the description below. But thanks again, mate. I will speak to you very soon.
All right, speak to you very soon. Cheers,
Bye.